Soole is a Yoruba word that describes a road transportation where passengers board the bus from the roadside instead of the park. The Igbos call it Akanelu. When you hear of Soole, you hear of one chance. Usually people who use Soole have this sole aim of paying lesser of what is charged in the park. This is because the driver is the one who takes the money instead of the transportation company he is working for. So because of this, the driver charges less. And also, they usually minus the payment based on the distance covered from the park to where they picked the passengers and then the final destination. This means the closer the passenger to the final destination, the lesser money he or she would pay. One of the disadvantages of using Soole is that it's not safe. As different kind of people board the bus from different kind of bus stops, their information are not usually trackable compared to when they board the bus from the park where all the formalities must be done. Then you don't know who they are, what is in their luggages, or what they do for a living. The only thing you know is their destination, and this might be a lie. Because of this, the already existing passengers on the bus are exposed to criminals, kidnappers, and all sorts of things. This movie is about people traveling from Lagos to Enugu through a bus, and this bus happens to be Soole. On the bus, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the combo of these personalities made the movie so interesting to watch. The movie started with a reverend sister, a role played by Adunni Ade, who happens to be the producer of the movie. This sister woke up in the middle of the night, remembering the conversation she had with a reverend father, who told her there is no money for a certain children to celebrate the festive period. Now, the following morning, she decided to travel to Enugu for only God knows why. Due to the fact there is no money in the church, she decided to use Soole instead of going to the park.
Mr. Kayode, do you know where I can find Soole heading to Enugu?
Soole.
The taxi driver was shocked. Even me, I was shocked. Like, after all the donation and offering in the Catholic Church, a reverend sister would be that broke like all of us. Well, she successfully boarded a Soole and the journey began. As usual, the Soole started picking different kinds of passengers on the way. Starting from this lady, they were a lady. Funny enough, her bag is of the same design with that of a bag a woman did well before. But instead of putting her own bag in the boot, she carried it into the bus. As the bus was moving, she became friends with the reverend sister. They exchanged pleasantries, and when the reverend sister asked her what she does for a living, it was too heavy for her to tell. She simply said,
I sell personal stuff.
Judging from her reaction, this was a big lie from the pit of hell. Well, the usual traveling prayers from bus pastors was held, and those that have their products to advertise also did their thing. Actually, these are relatable to those who travel from Lagos to the east by road. However, there were a lot of arguments from here and there that would make you ask yourself the purpose of watching this movie. Like, am I going to sit here and watch people arguing on their way to Enugu? An hour into the movie, you are still wondering where the story is headed until the money bag was discovered. That's when you become more anxious and eager to watch the movie to the end to find out who owned the money, what the money is actually for, and what finally happened to the money. Everybody is after the money, including the armed robbers, police officers, the driver, and the passengers. The plot of this movie was so interesting that you would not even predict what would happen next. Meg Otanwa acted the role of Justina, and she's called Justy Baby in the movie. Justy Baby sells adult toys, but many people on the bus don't know. Even the reverend sister she's friends with on the bus doesn't know that she sells adult toys. In the movie, Justy Baby was a character of a rash young lady who never misses any given opportunity to show other passengers that she open eye well. But her rashness was on the good side. After all, she went to a Catholic school. Her opposite character is Abdul Lateef Adedimeji. He played the role of Julius, although the name wasn't quite mentioned in the movie. His role is that of rash street criminal who quarrels with everyone on the bus. If you throw him a compliment, you are in trouble, and if you disagree with him, you are also in trouble. Another rash guy on the bus is Esodike, who played the role of Innocent. He's that street boy from ghetto who wants to make big money and start living la vida loca. Although he doesn't have any relationship with Julius, but he also wants to get the money and start living large. Adunni Ade, the Reverend Sister acted the role of compassionate woman who loves humanity, including children, as we all could see in the beginning of the movie. While on the bus, she tried as much as possible to mind her business, while being compassionate with other passengers. Then the pastor, a role played by Gold Ikponwosa, he's the opposite of the Reverend Sister. He doesn't care for anybody except money and himself. Whenever it's time to show human kindness, he chooses to use a Bible verse that will suit his wickedness. Honestly, the pastor is a savage. The scene that caught my attention was when he pointed at Just Baby while talking about people that dress like prostitutes.
Those of you that like to dress like prostitutes.
However, he was lucky that Just Baby didn't catch him. He would have known how prostitutes treat men in this country. But Just Baby had the feeling that the pastor was referring to her. Another character we won't ignore easily is Shola Sobowale, who played the role of Isioma. In the beginning, she was supporting the pastor as if she was together with him to extort the passengers. You know how this works when there is passengers in the bus, like there are people supporting the pastors to make sure a lot of people bring in donations. But what happened in the ending part of the movie would shock you and you would wonder who she really was. Another role that started fine is the role of Femi Jacobs, who acted as Ifebuchi in the movie. Ifebuchi was tackling the pastor by all means starting from the beginning of the movie. He's the one who doesn't believe in religion, but in humanity and fair treatment to everyone, irrespective of your background. Let's not forget the fact that he was very spiritual as well, which makes us wonder who he really was. Then the driver, a role played by Sean Fakia. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce this correctly. Watching the movie, one would think that this guy was actually a driver in real life. The way he handles his passengers while having his self-interest at heart shows the way most drivers going from Lagos to the east behave. As simple as it might sound on paper, filming on the bus while on transit poses a unique challenge for filmmakers. Any film at the public transport facility or transport infrastructure such as train, buses, ferries, and lorries require a certain level of expertise from the director and the entire crew. Perhaps this may be why Nigerian filmmakers rarely weave the plot of their movies around moving vehicles. Actually, the storyline has been gripping enough and suspense-filled to make the audience glued to their screen. The storyline has prospect, and it seems that the writer was trying to achieve a lot of things at the same time. An hour into the movie, you are still trying to understand where the story is headed to, and no visible twist was seen until later. All the actions, shooting didn't even happen until later in the movie. And if there is an impatient viewer, the person would have walked away before getting to the movie's main plot. You cannot also ignore the scene where Lateef Adedimeji was using a pocket knife to threaten 12 passengers, and none of them could attack him. Like, this kind of scenarios doesn't happen in real life. Another disturbing scene of the movie is that of the driver waking up in the bush 11 months after he was shot. That was ridiculous. So he was actually in the bush 11 months after. The director could have done better, and that should be before the 11 months after.